Welcome to Classroom Book Talk with Sora and Teaching Books, a series where educators share how they bring books to life in their classroom. My name is Naomi, and I am the social media manager for Sora Reading app. So if you see anything on social media, videos, posts, and all of that, that is me on the other end. And today we're talking about how educators and school librarians use Sora to build diverse and inclusive reading lists that reflect their students' identities and expand perspectives. From audiobooks to ebooks to intentional curated lists, we're exploring what it looks like to make access and representation a daily part of students' reading life. And joining me today is the wonderful Andrea from Literacy Junkie. I love your content and I've been
Thank you.
following you from the Sora pages. You're listening to this and you're an educator, school librarian, and you don't follow Andrea, you must. So, yeah, can you introduce yourself a little bit for the
Yes.
audience?
So my name is Andrea, and I run the social media page. So I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, and it's all the Literacy Junkie. So I came up with that like 10 years ago when I started teaching fifth grade, and it is literally taken off from there. It's just literally I like books.
Nice.
I live in St. Louis, Missouri, and I have been teaching for this is my 14th year teaching. So 13 years in the classroom, first year as a librarian.
Oh my God, amazing. So first year as a librarian, so you're no longer a teacher or
No. So no longer a
okay.
classroom teacher. So all library.
Okay, but that's a really cool perspective. Oh, I thought you were just a librarian. I didn't know you taught in the past from your social. I just thought you were a school librarian. But that's really awesome because now we get to hear, because I am really excited about getting folks in here that are teachers and school librarians because I feel like that's really different perspectives and I feel like
Mhm.
both can learn from each other. So that's really awesome because I feel like we'll get to hear from teacher perspective as well as school librarian currently.
Yes.
But yeah, that's awesome. That's a long time.
It is. It is.
Yes,
I
that's
like to tell
awesome.
my husband that it's the longest job I've ever had.
That That's wonderful. Okay, so I have a couple questions like I said earlier, and the very first question that I have is how do you currently expose students to a wider range of voices, authors, cultures, and different experiences through books?
So, one of the things that especially like being a classroom teacher, I used to do First Chapter Friday. So we would read a chapter of a book that I felt like I wanted to introduce my kids, but just give them more variety in their reading diet. And same thing, I can't necessarily do it as much as a librarian, but we do a lot of
Mhm.
book talks. So book talks are the number one thing, especially with my big kids. I'm at third, fourth, and fifth graders. We book talk all the time. Just different things that I've added to our classroom through our library, just so they can just widen that variety of what they're reading. I also like to invite authors in to, even if they just record a video, for my kids to just talk about why they became an author, why their book is so interesting, trying to get my kids just excited about reading, and hearing different perspectives through those books.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that first chapter. I feel like I do that in my personal life when I can't decide what to read. And I'm a Libra zodiac sign.
Same, I am too.
I'm horrible at making decisions and I'll
Me
have
all
like
day
3
long.
I'll have like 3 books and I'm like, "Okay, I need to read the first chapter of each and see which one sticks because I can't make a
Yes.
decision from the life of me."
Uh-huh.
But I absolutely love that and that you're introducing that to your students because I feel like I wish a teacher of mine would have taught me that. So like, because I just started doing that randomly, like in my later in life. But that's really awesome, and I love to hear about the author videos.
So the best part about social media is you get to
Mhm,
be connected with so many authors and that follow
mhm.
me. So a quick text, a quick message
Yeah.
on Instagram. Like 90% of the time, they are very willing to just record something real
Mhm.
quick and just send over so that way I can get my kids just excited about reading.
Yeah, especially for students. I am sure that authors are really down for that, and
Yes.
yeah, the other reason why I was really excited that you mentioned the author, is because if you're a teacher out there and you're listening to this and you have teaching books has a ton of author videos. So
Yes.
those are like a resource. They're available. They're free. So that's really awesome to hear that students really respond to those like author videos and get them excited. I feel like I felt that when I was in school, like whenever we had like an author visit or I didn't know who the author was or the book or anything, and then hearing them talk about the book, I was like, "Oh yeah, I really wanna read this now."
Right.
So that's really awesome. Okay, so the next question I have is, can you share an example of a title or author you discovered that had a really strong impact on your students?
So One books, I mean, it's cliche, but Jason Reynolds. When I tell you the way he talks about books, the way he writes his books, it connects to my kids so much.
Mhm,
Even like my own kids, we've been reading his books together and we actually got to go see him. And my kids sometimes don't always like to read books, but
mhm,
just listening to him talk about his books, getting to meet him in person has like sparked that interest. I even had students that went to see him when he came to St. Louis, and they could not stop talking about him. And so, like,
mhm.
he is my always go to share all of his books because it just connects with kids so much. And the kids can see themselves in the books and they can feel the characters and they can see that movie playing. It's like it's happening
Mhm.
right there in front of him the way he writes his books.
Yeah, he has such a wonderful way in his books of just you really see yourself in his
Yes.
books, and that's what students are looking for. And we also had him here in Cleveland, and I there's like a handful of authors that I've like seen live, and I'm like, oh my, they when they're speaking, you're just like in a
Yeah.
trance. And Jason is one of those people. He's just so smart. I think then the other person is Elizabeth Acevedo. I don't know if you've ever read anything
Yes.
by her, but I saw her also like had like she did a conversation, a talk, and I was like, "Oh my god, I must read everything that she's ever written." Um,
Right.
but it was just it's lovely hearing from their experiences and their how they grew up and everything, and that they put that in their books.
Mhm.
It's really definitely very special, but I love Jason Reynolds too, and
Yes,
that's
I
such a
do too.
wonderful yeah, that's a wonderful recommendation because I feel like Jason Reynolds is someone that I feel like a lot of people have heard of, but also a lot of people
Mhm.
haven't heard of, and I hope
Right.
that if you're listening to this and you have never heard of Jason Reynolds, now you do, and now you
Yes.
know, and now you must
Right.
read
Because I feel
everything
like
by
when
him.
kids read his books, it's like almost a gateway to reading other books. Because then they're like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
do you have something like it? Do you have
Mhm.
something else of his?" And I'm like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
got you. I got you."
100%. Yeah, I feel that way too about Tiffany D. Jackson. I read so much
Yes.
by her and I love her too. All right, so the next question is how do formats like audiobooks or ebooks help remove barriers for students with different reading needs or learning styles?
I really it creates that access, like that 100% evens the playing field. The school that I currently at now, some of the kids just don't always like to pick up a book and read. And
Mhm,
the first time I opened Sora, one, some of them didn't even know about Sora. So I was like, oh, well, let me show you this. But they were able to see that one, we have ebooks, we have audiobooks. They can download it on a tablet, they can take it
mhm.
wherever they want. Some kids are like, I don't take home books because like my siblings will rip them or that. And I was like, I got you. I got you.
Or the
You
dog will
have
eat
this
them.
on there. Right, exactly. Oh, we've had a dog eat a book.
No, they
Yes,
can't eat the
when they were
tablet.
babies. So now that they're older, they don't do it as much. But yes, I was like, I understand. But they can listen to books and it creates an equitable playing field for all
Mhm,
kids. Even if, like, even in my classroom, when my kids will be listening to a book, I'm like, hey, just follow along with the book. So that way they can not only listen to the way vocabulary is said,
mhm.
they can also see what it looks like. So when
Yeah.
they can come back to and reference it later.
Yeah, that's really important too. I don't know if you can tell that my first language is not English, and that's kind of how I learned Spanish was I would read captions and like listen to English and how Hannah Montana was saying a word, and
Yes.
that's how I learned. So that's a I love that you're doing that with the audiobooks and reading. I honestly do that in my day-to-day life now as a 27-year-old. So that is such a lovely thing that you're teaching your students as well. I love that. And also
Yeah,
like in
and I tell 'em
Sora.
I do the same thing too, like, I will listen to an audiobook and, read at the same time with the physical book because, 1, it just solidifies what I'm doing, and I can pick it up a little bit more.
Yeah, I feel like attention spans now, like that's such a great thing to teach your students as well because I feel like attention span with like TikTok and social media and
Mhm.
everything, it's like even I have a hard time like when I'm reading like an ebook on my phone, like on Libby or Sora, sometimes I'll see a notification and then doom scroll
Yep,
for
you're going
hours.
off.
So it's nice to like just have the audiobook and then have the physical book and the phone needs to be away. It needs to be
Yes.
in the other room. But yeah, that's so lovely that you're teaching them that skill. Um, okay, the next question I have is have you noticed changes in student engagement when students see themselves reflected in books that they read?
I do. I do 100% because kids want to see themselves. Like I was just talking to a group of third graders today. And we were talking about what's her? It's Augusta Baker. We were
Mhm.
reading Go Forth and Tell, and she was a librarian in New York, and she did all these things, and she became a librarian. But one thing she saw in the library is that African Americans were not being represented kindly and positively in the library. So she made it like a mission to find books and created a list for students to have when they came to the library. And that's what and we would kind of talked about having that conversation of what does it feel like when you have a book that you've read that represents you, that it goes through the same struggles as you, that looks like you, that has the same number of siblings as you, and things like that. I was like, how does that make you feel? And they were talking about like, it makes me feel great. Like, it makes me feel like there's somebody out there that I can relate to, that somebody cares enough to have written a book that deals with my situations or deals with that looks like me because they took the time and they cared enough to do that, which was very enlightening for me for them to like just have that conversation. But I do highly feel like it is very important that kids have books that represent them. And like always tell them when I was growing up, the only books that existed were books about Jim Crow and slavery. That was it.
Mhm.
Like we read Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, was about the only book, one by a Black author and two that had Black characters in it, but it was all about Jim Crow laws and sharecropping and racism. That was the
Mhm.
only thing that existed. And I feel like kids today are so lucky because they have
Mhm.
so much available that represents them no matter who you are and what situation, which is why I love sharing books on social media so much is because I want to put it out there to teachers and librarians or parents to see like there's so much out there that you can read and not only does it have to reflect you, but we can start to read things by that are like windows into other people's lives.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. I feel like I hear a lot of people that, like, say, "Oh, I don't really like reading," or something, and I'm like, "You just haven't found the right book," and
Yes, that is
usually
exactly
yeah,
it.
you have not found the right book, and usually when I was young, I was, like, reading all of, like, this dystopian novels and stuff, and I'm like, "But why are they always, like, not brown? Like, why aren't
Right.
they like me? Like,
Exactly.
why can the main character, the heroine person be like of color. I just did a book club recently and we read Ander and Santi Were Here by
Hmm.
Johnny Garza Villa. It is a young adult book and it follows these two Mexican boys and it's a lot about the immigration and all of that. But it was very queer and it was lovely because we talked about the book. It was queer, but it was mainly about immigration and the
Hmm.
fact that it was all queer joy and there wasn't any, like, trauma like, there was already traumatic things, including immigration, but there was, like, queer joy and queer love, and that we didn't have to, like, read it because usually when you read, like, a queer book, there's sort of, like, that coming out
Yep.
story, and it's, like, very traumatic, and it was just so
Yep.
beautiful to see of just, like, a healthy queer relationship in a young adult novel of 2 people that love each other, and yes, there were other things in the plot that were traumatic, but
Right.
it was lovely to see, like, queer joy, and I related to that sentiment that you said about books back in the day being all about, like, all of these traumatic things that happen in Black history, and especially as well, I feel like nowadays, like, I also read a lot of books by Hispanic and Latino authors,
Mhm,
and they're all too about, like, very traumatic things, like, I get recommended this book called Olga Dies Dreaming a lot, and it's
mhm.
all about Hurricane Maria, and I'm like, "I don't wanna read about this because this is
Right.
traumatic." Like, I'd rather read a book about, like, a Puerto Rican girl there's a book called Blaze Wrath Games, and
Mhm.
it's about this Puerto Rican girl that it's like How to Train Your Dragon, like, fantasy vibes, and I'm like, "I'd rather read that." Like
Right.
I just want a Puerto Rican girl that it's like, slaying dragons
Right. You
and,
don't want a
like,
book to
being
leave
cool.
you, like,
Mhm.
depressed. Like,
Yeah,
yes, we do need to know, like, the history behind things and why things happen, but we also need to feel that joy and
right.
have that joy with the characters that are
Yeah.
in our books.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely a balance of the 2
Mhm.
of, like, learning because I feel like I've read, like, a memoir called Solito by Javier Zamora, and it's about this man that wrote the memoir about the story when he was, like, 8 years old migrating to the United States
Mhm.
from San Salvador, and I'm Puerto Rican, so I am a citizen, so I didn't know a lot about, like, immigration and how people get here, and, like, I've never had that
Right.
worry because I'm a citizen.
Right.
So that one, like, was such a beautiful book and I learned so much, but it's also, like, is that balance of, like, learning from our culture, but also like we need to read fun things as well.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a balance.
agreed.
Mhm. Okay. The next question I have is, are there any Sora features you rely on most when building or recommending diverse reading materials?
One thing is that just being able to create a collection so that my kids can easily access these books. They don't have to go scrolling through and just like you scrolling through social media. Like you can be looking for a book and just be scrolling. But the way I can just build a collection for my kids and say, like, hey, here's my most recommended book, or here's my books for Black History Month, or here are my books for Women's Heritage Month, or all the different things, which I love so much, is just being able to build those collections for my kids to be at my kids' fingertips right away as soon as they open up that.
It's a great way to celebrate whatever is going on in the world uh, through a collection. And usually people really want to celebrate certain things through literature
Hmm.
found. So yeah, that is wonderful that you're creating all those collections. Um, Okay, my next question. So besides Jason Reynolds, what are your go-to book recs? It can be Jason Reynolds. I was just trying to be
Yes,
funny.
it will always be Jason Reynolds. I don't know. It's just the kids get so into him and then they love it so much
And I
and
love
they can
that.
spark it.
Yeah.
But who is else? I mean, I just love so much. That's the problem. When kids ask
Mhm.
me, or when someone asks me, like, what's your favorite book? It's like asking me what my favorite child, who's my favorite child.
Real.
I can't
I
just
know.
say one because there's so many. Like I just read Nick Blake by, why am I blanking out? What is Angie
Goodreads.
Thomas? There she is, Angie Thomas. It's by Angie
Angie
Thomas.
Thomas. Okay.
Yes.
She wrote The Hate
So
You Give, right?
she
Okay.
did, and now she's venturing into middle grade books, which I am so
Ooh,
happy
I
for.
love that.
My oldest daughter, she loves Angie Thomas books, so she read The Hate You Give, she read Concrete Rose,
Mm.
and now she has written the Nick Blake series, which now my middle schooler and my son cannot read, and like I can put it in my library
Mhm.
because it's more for those third through like seventh graders. Really love that one.
Is it fantasy or contemporary?
It is. It's fantasy. Yeah,
Okay,
so it's about a
exciting.
girl who so the first book is so she has no clue she's been kidnapped, but her dad, and that's what I started. I book talked this book at the beginning of the school year because
Mhm.
the second book came out in September. So I was telling my kids, I was like, she was kidnapped by her father. She has no clue that she's a twin, and that her mom is the president of, or that her grandmother is the president of this remarkable world, is what it's called.
Oh,
And so they are like, "Ooh, what is this book?" And so I tell him like, okay, it's Nick Blake and the Remarkables. Really love that book. Just the way she portrayed the characters in that book, but then also like the history of like Black culture in that book. It was amazing. It was beautifully done.
I'm writing that down.
Yes.
I loved, Amari and the Night Brothers. I don't know if you read that one.
Yes. Yep.
And I've
I
yet
did.
to find something like it. And I
Yes.
need,
Oh,
like, more
and that one,
fantasy.
so like any of my kids who really loved Amari and the Night Brothers, I really recommend that book too because it's along the same lines and they will love it. And that's another book like my kids really love that book too. I read it, and so here's the thing: like when I was a classroom teacher, I never read the same book twice. I tell my children, I was like, guys, there are too many books that are published in the
Yeah.
world for me to keep reading the same book to
Mhm.
classes every single year. So I read Amari and the Night Brothers to a group of kids, like when I
Mhm.
taught fourth grade. And then I went up to fifth grade. And luckily, it was my kids that I had last school year. Their teacher in fourth grade read them Amari and the Night Brothers. So I could read the second book to them. So I was like,
Yes!
okay, I read
Sequel.
it. And so that was when the third book was coming out. And
Okay,
so
that's
they were
exciting.
able to pass around the third book because they were
I
like, are you
love
going to read
that.
this? I was like, guys, I'm not going to spend the whole entire year reading the same book, but you are welcome to check it out. I like to read series to my kids that like spark their interest about it and then send them off to read the rest of them.
No, that's wonderful. Yeah, I love Amari. I still haven't read the sequel. I feel like now I have to reread it at this point because 'cause it's been
Yes.
so long, but now I'm so excited, and now I know who to text when I need Amari recommendations, read
Yeah,
alikes.
because like I love that book so much. What else? Let's see. Another one of my favorite because I am very good big on horror stories. I don't know. Maybe it's my birthday
Ooh.
being in October and all things Halloween. I know, right?
Wait, when's your birthday?
October 4th.
Oh, mine's the 10th.
Oh, that's my son's birthday.
Oh, 10/10.
Yep, 10/10. Yes. He was born, and then my husband's birthday is the 14th. So we all
Gosh. Oh my god,
within
all
2
of you
weeks.
guys are Libras. How do you guys make
Yes.
any decisions?
It's very
Oh my
hard, and
gosh.
I am the worst. I am so the worst at doing it because even just when it comes to, like, "Where do you wanna go to dinner?" "I don't know. You pick."
You pick, yeah.
He's like, "You pick." I was like, "I don't even know. I don't know." Yes, I am the most indecisive person in the world, but I do love scary books,
Mhm.
and one of my favorite authors that writes scary book, her name is Lindsay Curry. She just, wrote X Marks the Hunt, and that just came out, I believe, January, or if not the beginning, no, January.
I feel like I have that somewhere.
Man, because,
Yes.
like, she actually sent me a copy, and she doesn't live too far from
Oh my
here.
goodness.
Which I love so much is
That's so
that she lives,
exciting.
like, right across the river in Illinois, and I'm like, "Oh, man, girl, like, and anytime you come over to the St. Louis side, call me.
Yes.
Call me."
Come to the
Yes.
classroom.
Yeah, so she's a great author. And then another author is Karina Yan Glaser. She writes the Vanderbeeker series. I absolutely love I feel like the children in that book are like kids relate to those kids so much because of all their shenanigans that they do throughout the book.
If you see me
And then
looking
she's
down, I'm rating everything that you're saying,
I love
all
it,
the
I love
authors.
it. No worries, because if you see me, like, I'm, like, scrolling through, like, all my list of books 'cause I also screenshot a lot because I have to, like, save it. I'm like, "Ooh, I wanna read that, and I wanna" so my camera roll is literally my to be read list.
Me,
Yes.
whenever I go to a bookstore, I'm
Oh,
like
yeah, uh-huh, snapping
and then I just
pictures.
look it up on Sora or Libby.
Yeah. Like, I could be here all day. The last thing you wanna ask me is, like, "What recommendations?" Because then I'm like, "Ooh, this," and then, "Ooh, this." And then, Allison Gerber, she's actually coming to my school in April. She writes The Liar Society. So, like, my kids who really love, like, mystery and code breaking and like putting
Mhm.
clues together and all that detective stuff. They really they got into that. I read it to my kids last school year because she came to promote the second book in the series, not a third book in the series is coming out. They ate that up. They loved it so much.
I
They
love
loved
that.
it. Yes. Yeah. This is the worst question because I can be here all day.
Well, I can move us to our very last question. So, the last question that I have is what advice would you give to educators who want to diversify their classroom libraries but are not sure where to start?
I would say start and look at what you have. One thing that helped me a lot to kind of figure out where the holes and the gaps are in my library is it's called Booksource Classroom Organizer.
Mhm.
And I was able to like literally create a catalog of my books. Like I would create a catalog for like a big school library. Same thing. And I was able to tell me like where the holes fell in there. So first, just know what books you have in your library. And that's one thing, like I knew every single book in my library. So if a kid was looking for something, I knew where to find it, what it was, and what he was looking for. You got to know what you have in there so you can talk to kids about the books. Once you figure out who is not being represented in your library, one thing I say, get on social media because
Mhm.
there are so many people that share so many
Yeah.
recommendations, even if like, because I share a lot of coming books
Mm.
so that you can look forward to and some stuff that is like published currently, but I try to like stay ahead of the game so that way
Mhm.
people can see like, "Ooh, this book is coming, this book is coming." But yeah, social media has been
Mhm.
a big place, even like recommendations for me. Like if
Yeah.
there's something I don't know, then there are other people out there that have shared different books or different collections of books. It has been a great lifesaver, social media, because you can find anything on there. So know your collection, figure out where your holes are, go to social media, follow a bunch of people because I feel like teach other teachers and librarians will be your best friends because they just love to share information.
Yeah. I would say if you don't know where to start, go to at literacy junkie and you'll find a ton of stuff on there. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us for our very first classroom book talk with
Thank
Sora
you.
and
This was
teaching
fun.
books. Yeah, thank you. Where can people find you? I know you said it at the beginning, but just as a reminder for folks,
Yes.
where can people find you and all
Yeah,
that?
so I am the literacy junkie and I am on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. So it's the same thing on all, the literacy junkie.
Amazing. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us for our very first classroom book talk with Sora and Teaching Books. Today was just such a reminder of representation and access and choice and how it can really transform students' lives. So, thank you so much for all of your tips and tricks and all of that. If you're an educator and you're looking to build more inclusive and engaging reading experiences, explore Sora and Teaching Books. There's so much to offer on there. If you have any questions, I hope that they can DM you
Yes,
If
always DM
anything,
me, send me a
thank you.
message.
And yeah, be sure to subscribe. This will be up on our YouTube channel for more conversations. If you have an idea of another educator or school librarian that you're like, they need to be on Classroom Book Talk, send it to us through a DM.
Will do.
Yeah. And yeah, thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.
Thank
Bye.
you.